Dang, that's crazy.
I mean, you can fix that, right? It's not a big deal to you.
I mean, how long you been driving like that?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Could you not hear the sounds coming from that thing?
Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces past and I'm homebound. You're a big booty girl, and you dance at the club. Oh mama, just having fun. I'm staging my heels, it's where I belong. Down at the big booty club, I'm here to keep my dancing. And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. Here I'm coming with you, dear Maria, count me in. There's a story at the bottom of this bottle, and I'm the pen. Hunted on the plane to see the sky, just allegiance to your eyes. You've seen your fall. California girls were unforgettable. Daisy Dukes bikinis on top. Oh, she's super psycho, a little bit psycho. I heard she's screaming on my mind.
My hearing's not what it used to be, but don't worry about it. I'll limp it home. It'll be fine.
Yeah, brother. $40,000 in tactical gear, and this guy can't even maintain his own vehicle. Idiot. Huh. Well, that's new.
Anyone in the prepping community knows the stress that we place on buying pallets of ammo, water purification systems, just in case for emergency, or swapping out from winter carry to summer carry as far as our EDC goes. But man, we often overlook the simple stuff that is not flashy or Instagram worthy. Things like properly maintaining your family's mode of transportation.
No way, those guys have a TV in their car.
The vehicle maintenance kind of stuff. Now, if you do it wrong, you could take a vehicle to someone who is going to way overcharge you to do a simple task like changing your oil or swapping a light bulb for your headlight.
I'm gonna ruin this.
Shane, if you know how to do these things on your own, just some of these basic tasks, you can save thousands of dollars and also acquire some tools to simply do this in your own driveway. Now, if Drew and I were to teach you this stuff, we could absolutely show you how to take every bolt off of a vehicle. We can't show you how to put that car back together, so the good news is we have Chad Barber.
Hey.
He's often behind the camera, but he is a vehicle guru, and I'll let him introduce how he kind of got into this vehicle overlanding world. Chad, take it away.
Honestly, it's just been many years of working on my own vehicles. Ever since I was 16, had my first vehicle, I've always been doing basic maintenance and services. I've never wanted to pay somebody all the money to have things fixed on my vehicle, so I've just learned how to do it myself. When I got into off-roading and overlanding, I essentially, it's very expensive, right, to take your vehicle to a shop to have your truck built out. And I was like, I don't want to pay all that money. I'm going to do all of this myself. And that's essentially what I've been doing this entire time. I've built my 4Runner. I've helped build multiple other vehicles. I've been in charge of mechanical stuff on trips. You know, when you're out in the middle of nowhere on a trail, something breaks down, well, you can't take it to a shop. You got to know how to do that stuff yourself. So I would say just many, many years of just working on my own stuff.
Chad's going to walk us through the very basic entry-level stuff that everyone should be capable of doing on their own. We're also going to fly through some of the tools that would be required to do that stuff. And even with buying some of the tools and the equipment that could be needed to work on a vehicle, just like this 2006 Toyota Sienna minivan, we'll be talking about the cost, how much savings you'll actually have if you do it yourself as opposed to taking it to a professional mechanic or a dealership. How much of what we're talking about is really preventative maintenance as opposed to emergencies out on the road? Because in my mind, there's a little bit of a difference between those two.
Yeah, so a lot of what we're doing is preventative maintenance, right? For the quality of your vehicle, for the longevity of your vehicle. With that being said, a lot of it, like if you learn how to do a lot of this basic preventative maintenance, if you get into an emergency situation, obviously dependent on what that situation is, you can diagnose and figure out kind of what you need to do in that emergency situation and get it resolved.
What are we starting with, Chad?
Start with oil. The most basic yet like lifeblood of a vehicle is your oil. So we want to change it every 5,000 miles, regardless of what anybody tells you. You don't want to go to 10,000, 7,500. If you do it once or twice throughout the life of the vehicle, fine, whatever, but you really want to be consistent on changing your oil and filter every 5,000 miles. So we'll start there.
Sweet, let's dive in.
Who knows how old this is? Ooh, is that an antifreeze? Yeah. Oh, that's not good.
Guys, today's video is sponsored by First Form. As far as supplements and vitamins go, we use a lot of their stuff, specifically their protein powder and their pre-workouts. It's really cool to know how to take care of your vehicle, to know how to take care of your gear and your equipment and your rifles and stuff, but also taking care of your body and your nutrition is also very important. So check out First Form for all that awesome stuff.
Also guys, Wetworks. So one of my favorite products from Wetworks is the Super Slick Plate Carrier. Obviously you can use it to conceal armor under a flannel or a rain jacket. You can also use it to scale up with chest rigs or whatever else that is that you want to use. So if you got a 308, a 6.5 Creedmoor, 5.56, MP5, chest rigs, whatever, you can have armor added to all of those chest rigs by just having a slick plate carrier. Again, my go-to has been this Wetworks Super Slick. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. Guys, it's one thing to drive your vehicle around town and know exactly where you're going. It's a totally different thing to be driving who knows where, not sure how to get there, and inevitably you lose cell service and you're stuck or continuing to drive, hopefully in the correct direction. Now, another option is to use Onyx Off-Road. With that, you can download, before you leave, all of the maps that you're using. You can build route planning, you can drop pins in case you need to backtrack where you're going. You can even see weather overlays and where dead zones are for cell service. So if you are going to be going on a trip out to a location that you haven't been to before, highly recommend that you use Onyx Off-Road. You guys may be asking yourself, man, with all of this money that I'm going to be saving by doing my own vehicle maintenance, what should I spend it on? I'll answer that question for you. Night vision. So for all of our go-to night vision needs, we go to Steel Industries, not just because their products are superior, but also because their customer service is just incredible. Now, if you are curious in going and testing out some of their products before you spend money, you can go down to their brick and mortar store in Central Florida before you buy. So with that, go to Steel Industries. All right, guys, the 5,000 mile oil change and inspection. So how often does that happen? Well, the average American is driving about 15,000 miles every year, so we should be doing this about 3 times a year. Now, if you were to take your vehicle to a dealership who is spending, a lot of money to hire those master techs just to look at your vehicle and change the oil, you could be spending $300 for every oil change. Now, of course, you could take it to a mom and pop shop and save some money.
I brought a gun to work. Cal pointed the gun at a customer.
What?
But if you were just replacing the consumables, the oil, the filters, the oil filter itself, those parts and pieces, you're gonna be down to about $100. Now, not only is that money back in your pocket, you're also starting to become more self-sufficient. Once you have some of these tools, they kind of pay for themselves over time because you're not spending all that money on a dealership working on your vehicle.
You got a boyfriend? He's making you bring your car in here? Sounds like it's a little shaky.
It's not shaky.
You sure?
Chad, can you walk us through, first of all, the difference between the tools and the consumables, and then what you're inspecting or actually physically doing every 5,000 miles?
Yeah, so, since we're starting with oil, a lot of vehicles you can get underneath without lifting. Like my 4Runner, it's lifted. I can change the oil without having to lift the front end up. But like this fan, we want to get the front end up a little bit just so we have a little bit more room to work with underneath. So we've got our jack here. Once we get the vehicle jacked up, we want to stabilize it, make sure it's safe. So we've got our jack stands here that will go in place of the jack. And then from there, some other basic tools that we need would be Some oil filter wrenches, depending on your vehicle, again, is going to be, you can have a couple different filters. You can have this screw-on cartridge filter that is very simple and easy to work with. And then you've got something, it's not complicated, but it's just a little bit different. This paper filter will go into a oil filter housing. So you take the housing off, you pull the old paper filter out, put the new one in, screw it back on. You know, there's different wrenches for these types of jobs. Like this one is a Toyota specific for their oil filter housing. You just hook it on, you know, you can wrench it off quick and easy. These are supposed to be hand tight when you put them on. Most of the time people over crank these, and also with driving every 5,000 miles, the heat tends to get this thing pretty seized on. So we've got, you know, some oil filter wrenches that just hook on there, and you can twist it off, or this one just slides on, and you can use leverage to get that guy off. And then just a basic set of sockets, right? Like you don't need anything crazy. Just do a little bit of research on your vehicle to figure out what kind of sockets you need. Most of the time it's gonna be metric, at least in my case, because I'm a Toyota fanatic. If you wanna get fancy, you can use an impact. Just be wary that you can do more damage with this than just using a basic wrench. So, especially small jobs like this, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. Will it make the job faster? Yes, but you know, you really get a feel for how tight things are with just a regular hand wrench. Going down the line, obviously you have to catch the oil that comes out of the vehicle. So we've got a drain pan here, got a funnel to fill the vehicle back up without spilling everywhere. Obviously we have our oil. This makes things nice. If your vehicle takes more than 5 quarts, you can use this, measure it out. Nice little spout. Makes things simple and clean. And then of course we have our air filters. Engine air filter and cabin air filter. Again, we may not be replacing these. We're going to inspect these filters while we're changing the oil. If they're good, we're just gonna leave the old ones in. If they're dirty, we'll replace them. So the rest of the fluids that we have here, we're not necessarily going to be draining all of these and refilling. We're going to simply inspect what's in the vehicle, and if it needs to be topped off, we can top it off. But these are essentially a whole different interval of mileage for your vehicle. Again, it goes back to researching your vehicle and understanding those specific intervals.
So you referenced that there are different kinds of oil filters, and also if I go to the car parts store, there's like aisles and aisles of different kinds of vehicle oil.
Yeah.
How do I know all of the details of this stuff?
So a lot of vehicles will come with an owner's manual. You can look in there for specifics on those different types of fluids, or you can use Google, obviously. Or if you're going into a parts store for the first time, all you gotta do is go up to the front desk, be like, hey, I've got a 06 Toyota Sienna. I'm doing an oil change. What kind of oil do I need? What kind of filter do I need? They'll tell you which one. Most of the time they'll grab it for you, or you can mosey back to that aisle and just pick up whatever you need. So also, if you cannot figure out from anybody in the world what kind of oil your car needs, it's right here on the cap. Most of the time, like 99% of the time. So you can just look right there and be like, okay, I need 5W30. But then that leads into the question, well, how much oil do I put in this thing?
Is there something wrong with putting too much oil? Can I just like top it off, fill it up, gas up all the way? More is better.
You can absolutely do that, but that is going to destroy the longevity and the quality and the performance of your engine.
Filling it too much?
Yes.
What about filling it halfway and realizing I don't have enough, and then I got to run down to the store?
Same thing.
Okay, so it is important to get the correct amount, which is why you have that little measuring pourer for volume of oil.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and get this Toyota Sienna off the ground. Each vehicle has specific lift points, so you don't damage the vehicle when you're lifting it up. I recommend you doing a little bit of research on the front end, figuring out where those points are. But for our van here, I know that this is a lift point. We're just gonna get this off the ground. Josh, can you get me a jack stand?
Yeah.
And that's about as high as my jack will go. And then we're gonna grab our jack stand and just get this up, lock it down. Boom. A lot of the times the vehicle underneath will have like an arrow pointing to where you can lift it up. But if not, again, just go ahead, do a little bit of research and figure out where those points are. And I know I told you guys that we just need to lift the front end, but we're gonna go ahead and do all fours because we're gonna show you how to rotate tires.
Being that people have jack stands that come with their cars, why spend another like $150 to $300 on a jack like this that's heavy, takes up space? It's like, I got one in my vehicle. Why did you go buy one?
Stock jack that came with my 4Runner is not high enough, especially since I put a lift on my vehicle, it sits a lot higher. So I had to go and buy something that'll actually lift it high enough to get it off the ground. For the average person, your typical jack that will come with the car is good enough. If you have a garage, plenty of space, you want to get something like this, yeah, it's bulky and heavy, but you just leave it in the garage and it just takes more time and it takes a little bit more effort with those particular vehicle jacks. So I like a floor jack, it's quick and simple. I mean, you saw how quick that was. Just
Way faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're under the vehicle. I'm not gonna give you like a full tutorial on how to do this because it's subjective, like every vehicle is different. I will say, make sure and know which pan you're draining, right? Like I know that this is the transmission pan and this is the oil pan. I've seen people drain the wrong thing and then you gotta fix it. So, wow, look at that. So that is black. I'm glad we're doing this. All right, so Drew actually spotted the filter. It's underneath this shield for the catalytic converter and the exhaust pipes underneath here. You can't see it on camera, but we know where it is. So the oil is now drained out of the vehicle. So I'm gonna put the plug back in and then we're gonna take that filter out and put the new one on.
So you drained it. Why are you just immediately putting the screw right back in?
Are you serious?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it's common sense to you. It's not common sense to the 16-year-old who just bought his first car.
Yeah, so we're putting the bolt back in. That way when we fill it back up with oil, it's not gonna immediately drain out. And this, you don't wanna go crazy tight with, or you're gonna end up damaging the pan itself. Ah! This is where the oil goes, right? More lubricity. You can get into the weeds with oil, but you know, synthetic has a lot of properties in it that are good for the engine. I'm gonna start it up, let it run for a hot minute. Just getting a lot of that old oil off, get it cleaned up just a little bit. I'm just checking the levels of the oil. Even though we put the specified amount in, it's always good to check what you put in. So you've got these two little indents to tell whether or not it's full or low. Essentially, you want your oil, you know, sitting in between there on the higher side. If it gets below this, too low, you want to add some oil. You know, we can get into the weeds on that.
All right, so oil's changed. Even with filming, that was like a 10, 15-minute job. What other fluids are you looking at while the hood's popped open?
Yeah, so essentially, like, if you're looking at the engine bay, like you've got reservoirs like all over the place. I'm just gonna go through each one. So over here, we've got power steering fluid. On the reservoir, you'll have these hash marks that will say min max, and that's essentially where you want this fluid to sit. It's got fluid, so I'm not really concerned with that being low. Now, if I look at the power steering fluid, you know, it's pretty dark, and I mean, you can even see how dark it is through the actual reservoir, but with how many miles are on this vehicle, and I don't know exactly when this was changed out, it's about time to probably swap this with some new fluid. It is full, so it's not leaking. That's good. I guess just moving down, so this reservoir is the washer fluid, and it's pretty low, so we can add, you know, some washer fluid. We can actually fill it up. There's not really like a min max hash mark on this, just because it's washer fluid. It's disposable, you know, it's something you use all the time. While he's getting the fluid, I'll just move over. So here is the coolant reservoir, and pop that cap open. Looking into the reservoir, there's there's no fluid in here.
It ain't got no gas in it.
Who knows where it went? There's so many variables to that. Essentially what I want to do is fill this up and, you know, we'll run the vehicle, and if it keeps getting sucked back down for whatever reason, we know there's probably some sort of issue. Coolant should not be disappearing like that. So you can also check it up here. So this is the overflow reservoir for the radiator. We can also check the actual like radiator cap itself. Don't do this while it's hot. This is gonna explode all over you because it's pressurized, and there's absolutely no fluid in there either. So I don't know how low the system actually is on coolant. So we're just gonna fill it up and run it and kind of keep an eye on it, I guess, over the next like week or so and see what happens.
Could it be an issue if the vehicle is chewing through coolant like a lot?
Yes. Yep. So if you don't see, there's a multitude of variables that it could be. You know, it could be the radiators just has a minor crack and it could be leaking from the radiator, or, you know, it could be an internal issue. You know, coolant leaking into spark plug tubes, like it could, there's a lot. So it really kind of just depends. And I hate to say that, but that's one of those like...
It goes beyond just like garage maintenance?
Yes, correct. That would not fall under the category of just like your basic preventative maintenance. All right, so the coolant that we had was actually concentrate. You can buy a 50-50 mixture between concentrate and water, and you can just go ahead and dump that in. But since we only had concentrate, we had to mix it with water, which is why you see it in this spring water. It looks like mellow yellow. But we're gonna start with filling up the radiator portion first and see how low this actually is, and then we'll move to filling up the reservoir. Stop. That works. All right, keep going. Okay. Cool. All right, well, that wasn't terrible. Radiator is full. And then we're gonna go ahead and just fill up the reservoir. Okay, there's the hash marks. So I'll tell you when to stop. And keep going, keep going. Stop. Cool. So we probably used, what, like quarter of a gallon?
Yeah, effectively.
We can do a little bit further investigation later. At least we know it's full, and we'll keep an eye on it. And if it continues to keep leaking out, then we'll investigate further. Cool, so the next thing that we're gonna check is the brake fluid. I can already tell, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but let's see, look for the hash marks. So there's a minimum hash mark, maximum hash mark. Fluid is sitting right in the middle, so we know that's good. We don't need to top that off. If you wanna check fluid, I mean, again, this goes into, can go into the weeds on things, but I recommend changing like brake fluid every 80 to 100,000 miles. But for now, this is good. All right, so we checked all the fluids. Now we're gonna check the air filter and see if it's dirty or not, see if it needs to be changed. So on this particular one, we've got a bolt here. You just undo those. This should pop up. We can pull the air filter out, so.
The way it was explained to me is that vehicles run on fuel. They also need oxygen in order to make a explosion, you know, which drives your piston and moves your car forward. And the fuel we tend to burn through fairly quickly. And you're buying as quality fuel as you can, whatever the car calls for. But the air is also very important too. And if you're pulling a bunch of stuff fluffy in the air, it starts to get into your engine bay. And then don't go so good. So we gotta make sure that our filtration systems for said oxygen is up to snuff, high quality, beyond par is the goal.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right.
Oh my goodness. Look at what just came out on that brand new battery.
So, I don't know, what do you think? Is that clean or dirty?
Dog, that ain't good.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and change this. You can also open this up and see if there's any debris or anything that's inside there and take a shot back. vacuum it out, but it looks fine in there.
Why'd you say it like that?
Debris?
Yeah, you said it funny. Went to high school with a girl named Debris.
Debris.
All right, which way does this go?
30 saddles down on that.
Oh, okay, that does help. At first I was like,
Clean, dirty, no bueno.
this was a perfect car to do this on.
Yeah, dude. So this is a cabin air filter. This is something that a lot of people will upcharge for because it's very much overlooked, but it is so easy to just change this out yourself. So we've got ours here. They do go in a specific way. You can see the arrows right here. Airflow going that way. All right, so typically your cabin air filter is going to be in the glove box. Now, open the glove box, you're like, oh, how do I get back in there? Well, a lot of the times you just give it a little pressure inwards and it drops out further. You can see the cabin air filter location right here. 2 tabs, pull it out, look at that. Yeah, so you're breathing all that in every time you're running the air. So for comparison, pretty nasty. So I'm just gonna unclip this. Boom, new air filter. Stick it back in, get these lined up. Done. Shop will charge, depends on the shop, but you probably see $50 just in labor for doing something like that.
It cost us like $6.99 when we bought it.
Now, I guess it's worth noting, like, hey, you can get a bunch of different kinds of these. They can range from like $10 up to like $50. They have like HEPA filters. They've got like fancy charcoal filters, but you can just get the cheap one, change these out anytime that's dirty, and yeah, good to go. All right, so while we're still under the hood, another thing that we want to inspect is your battery. I like to just take a look at the terminals and see whether or not you've got corrosion, like see all this white turquoise stuff? It's a little bit of corrosion dust, but it's not like terrible, right? Like it's not built up on the terminals. Like it looks like the terminals and the cables are making really good connection. So I'm not too concerned. If you see a bunch of corrosion though, what you can do is take a wire brush, scrub it off, just get rid of all that corrosion that's on there. So your battery, does wear out over time. It's not something that lasts forever. Generally 2 to 5 years, depending on the battery that you get. It's kind of like your iPhone, right? Like you've had your iPhone for 6 years, battery life is terrible, performance is terrible. Well, same concept, right? Like batteries just need to be replaced. They wear out. That's just how it is. Like, let's just say you get in your car, you go to turn it over, nothing happens. Your first thought is probably, oh, my battery's dead. How do you know that for sure, right? Like you jump start it, you run around town, next couple days, you got to jump it again. Kind of clear signs that the battery's gone out. Well, you can check this pretty easily with a multimeter. You can do this pretty quickly, right? Like multimeters are somewhat all the same, but you just find your DC voltage and turn it on, and we're just going to connect positive to negative. And with the vehicle off, we're reading 12.34 volts, which is great, right? Like that's a healthy battery. If I see anything like lower, like in the 11s or 10s or whatever, like we should probably start looking at replacing the battery. You can also run your voltage meter test like this, and you kind of need 2 people for this. You're gonna have one person start the car while you're connecting your multimeter. And if your voltage drops below like 9 volts upon startup, your battery, it's not necessarily toast, but it's starting to go out. Situation dependent, like you could maybe run on that battery for a little while longer, but eventually like it's getting ready to go out. So I would just recommend it. It's super easy. You've got positive, negative terminal, just unbolt these 2, pull the wires out, swap batteries, put them back on. It's just one of those things to keep an eye on. And, if you start having battery issues, well, here's a good way of diagnosing the battery itself. Now, if you catch yourself with a dead battery on the side of the road, you're in the middle of nowhere, well, this kind of goes back into the prepared things that you keep in your vehicle. for situations like this. You know, jumper cables obviously is perfectly fine. You're just gonna have to find somebody to jump you off. If you wanna be self-sufficient, I would recommend getting something like this. This is a jump box, Noco Boost. They make different sizes. This thing is great though. You just connect your leads and it essentially jumps your vehicle. So that, I mean, see how small that thing is? Like, why not have this in your emergency kit in the back of your vehicle? All right, so another quick, easy thing that you can do that I've seen a lot, Nick has seen a lot back in our day, people will actually take their vehicle in because they have a light bulb out. Man, this is so simple to just change out yourself. All you gotta do is get under the hood, find the general idea of where the headlamp is, and you've got, you know, you've got lows, you've got your brights, and you know, there's usually a turn signal in here somewhere. So most of the time on factory heads, probably kind of hard to see, you'll have a harness that you just undo, and then the light will twist in a certain direction and then just pop out. Yeah, so you pull it out, swap it with the new one. Obviously your local parts store will guide you in the right direction of which bulb to get. Just take the new one, line it up with the notches, turn it back into place, reconnect the harness, and should be good to go. Unless there's some other like electrical issue going on, like that's how simple it can be just to change out a bulb in your headlights. This, I was playing around with this Sienna, and the previous owner put LEDs in here. So he's got some aftermarket LEDs. So that's something to look out for, right? If you have aftermarket stuff, like it may be a little bit more difficult to narrow down exactly what you need, but it's the same process. This one's in there a little bit differently, but it's essentially the same mechanism, right? Like you get in there, you undo some tabs, twist the light, pull it out, pull the bulb out, put the new one in. Like it's essentially the same thing. It's just, this is something that is so easy to do, like you should not be taking it to somebody else and paying money to do this. Another electrical property that we can take a look at. Now, this van doesn't have really any electrical issues that we can spot right now, but let's just say you did have a headlight out and the bulb is fine. You check the bulb's fine. Next thing I would check is the fuse box. You know, there's gonna be a couple different locations for fuse boxes. There's usually one under the dash, and there's one under the hood. This one houses a lot of fuses and relays for the vehicle. Yeah, so in the box you'll have basically a diagram of all the fuses and relays. This will also be in your owner's manual, and it'll essentially tell you what all of these go to. So if my headlamp was out, you know, I'd be looking for like something that would say like headlamp or something like that. And I would just go in here. Usually there's a nice little pull tool that you can use, and you pull out a fuse and you can check it. I mean, obviously this one's intact, but we can throw up a picture of what a busted fuse would look like. Swap out the fuse with whatever rating it says on there. Yeah, so you pop it back in, you know, test, see if it works or not. If it's whatever situation is still not working, you probably have some deeper issues that you need to dive into. But it's always good to have, you know, just like we talked with the battery jumper box, it's always good to have a set of like spare fuses for your vehicle, because it could be a very easy fix. So you've got a pesky check engine light on the dash. What does it mean? Well, there's some things that you can do to help guide you in the right direction of either fixing it yourself or getting it repaired at a shop. Drew recently has been on a check engine light kick for searching for vehicles, I guess.
I just went my whole life with vehicles that had check engine lights.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm like finally taken care of.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know what it feels like when your dashboard absolutely lights up with stuff, and we all know people, and we're probably guilty, I know I'm guilty of this myself as well, is that when that light comes on, it's like, oh, I need to take it somewhere. The problem is that There are some places that'll check the codes to figure out what's going on with your engine and the rest of your vehicle for free. But there's a lot of places that charge anywhere from $40 to $100 just to check the diagnostics of what's going on underneath the hood. The fact of the matter is that you can do that yourself, and it's never been easier. Chad has, what you're going to need is a code reader, essentially, and it plugs into the ODB port of your vehicles. Which
OBD.
OBD. Thanks.
Yeah.
What does it stand for? Got him. You have a Harbor Freight one, right?
Yeah, so there's a multitude of different code readers from cheap to expensive. They all kind of do different things. This one's like a middle of the ground. It was like $60 at Harbor Freight. It'll read all your check engine light codes, and it'll also read like ABS codes. So kind of getting into the weeds on that thing, but it's nice to have.
Car illiterate people like me see this and they're like, okay, that's just something else I need to learn how to use. It's kind of intimidating. I did buy this one thing. It's a $40 version of this that is made for the average Joe. It's called a fixed, right? You can get these at Walmart, and it'll just plug right in down here. One of the best parts about this is that I don't need to take it somewhere to figure out if there's something seriously wrong with my vehicle. I can figure out if it's just a minor issue or if this is something, oh, I really should take this somewhere. So all you'll do is you'll plug that in, you'll type in the kind of vehicle that you have. I've been running this on various vehicles. Like my wife had a friend over and her vehicle was acting weird and she was like, I have a check engine light on. I was like, oh, I've got just the thing. I ran out there and I put her information in and I ran the codes and figured out what it was, told her what it was, and she was able to take it to the shop and get it fixed. So for this, I have a 2006 Toyota Sienna. I can tap to scan. It all links up with your phone, and it'll take a hot minute here to scan, but we'll go ahead and screen record so you guys can see what this looks like in better detail. Scanning the engine. And currently on this vehicle, I don't have a check engine light on. All the dash lights are on right now because of the way I have the key, but when I actually start this up, all it shows is maintenance required, which is not typically something that, like, here, you tell me the difference. What's the difference between check engine and maintenance required?
Yeah, if you see a light that just says like main or something like that, that's an indication of you need to change your oil. Like your vehicle, it depends on you as well. Like you have to reset that every time you change your oil. If you don't reset it, the vehicle's gonna continue to, not keep track of your log. So when that light pops on though, it's at least with Toyotas, it's every 5,000 miles that light will come on, and that just tells you change your oil.
All right, so I just got done with the scanner port and it's telling me that I have 3 major codes detected. A P0442, a P0456. That means nothing to people like us. Like, I don't know what that means, but the cool part about this app is it'll actually tell you exactly what the problem is. The P0442 code means the evap system leak. There's a leak that's been detected. It's identified it as a small leak, and then it'll tell me additional information. The engine control module has detected a small leak in the evaporative emissions system, which is designed to capture and store fuel vapors from the tank and lines instead of venting them into the atmosphere. So it kind of gives me a breakdown as to how serious of an issue this is, and it tells me like, here are the consequences if you don't fix this. It'll also go into like, it'll help me find a repair shop, and it'll give me a breakdown in terms of cost. If you try to repair this yourself, it's going to cost X amount of money, and it'll give me like a difficulty level. Like, can you do this yourself, or is it hard to do? It'll tell me. And then it'll give me some recommendations on nearby shops that have been confirmed to be able to fix this problem. So, but right now, I'm not super worried about this. I will say this is extremely helpful if you are looking for a used car. I've been in the car market myself recently, and you don't ever really know what you're getting when you buy a used car. You don't know if someone cleared all the codes off to make it look like everything was all right with the engine. And so I've taken this with us whenever you were helping me car hunt, and we found we avoided disaster because we were able to find some codes that someone tried to clear off and hide. And it has helped a lot. It also helped me diagnose an issue with the Lexus that I did buy. We found out that there was a leak in the air. See, I don't even know the words for all this stuff, but there was like a leak in the air intake. Yeah, thank you, Josh. Josh is holding the camera. How crazy is this?
Yeah, wild.
Anything can happen. Dude, anything can happen.
If this whole shot is out of focus, you know who to blame.
Yeah. But I was able to figure out that's the problem. I went out and I got a spare part. It cost like $8. I fixed it myself. That would have been something I would have had to take to a shop.
Yep. They would have diagnosed it, they would have charged you for a diagnosis fee, and then, you know, charge you parts and labor and all that stuff. You probably would have walked out of there with a $300 bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And not to mention, like, for a lot of people, like, time is money. Like the time cost to have to take your vehicle someplace, sit around in a lobby. Maybe they get it fixed that day, maybe they don't. Maybe they have a rental they can give you to go about your business throughout town. Maybe not. Like, it's such a hassle. And if we can take care of things like this ourselves, that's a win. Let's go check out your vehicle.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh man, how bad do you think it's going to be?
Well, I already know that there's some codes on there that I have not addressed because they're not that serious, so I just roll with it.
All right, so we've got 5 major codes detected, major driving impact. Okay, so O2 sensor circuit, bank sensor 2, 2 unknown issues, a P1441.
Actually, when those codes pop up, my vehicle goes into limp mode and it's not drivable. Like, I have no power. So essentially what I've been doing, because I haven't had the time to take it to the shop, and what I've been doing is clearing the code. It'll drive great for like a day or two, and the code will come back on and it'll go into limp mode.
Well, it's good to know, like if you're in an emergency and you just need to get out, like being able to clear the code, it kind of gives you a little bit of extra time.
It may not be that case for every, you know, it's really situation dependent, but
so this is interesting down here. So one of these tells you need to replace your bank 2 sensor 2 oxygen sensor. The estimated cost is anywhere from $264 to $334, and there's a 72% success rate when people try and do this. There's 72% success rate that is what the issue is. If you replace this part 3 out of 4 times, it's going to fix it. And they'll give you the parts cost breakdown and how much labor typically costs for that. So in this case, for this particular thing, the part is only about $140. Labor is $123. And that's just taking an average. Some shops can be more, some shops can be less. And then the difficulty rating in terms of you know, how hard it is to do, the tools you would need to repair it, the repair steps. It's actually pretty cool. So if you don't know what you're doing with vehicles,
for the average Joe
for 40
consumer,
bucks.
like for $40, that is awesome. Like, this is really my first time kind of seeing this in this much detail, and this, I would love to have this.
And it'll show me here, like, that's what the dealer cost is. This is what if you take it to like a mom and pop shop or like a typical like regular mechanic, it's going to cost a little bit less. And then if you do it yourself, $85 to $128. As far as reading codes go and check engine lights, doesn't mean that you don't need to take it to a place, but wouldn't it be nice to know what's going on with your vehicle so that you know whether or not you need to waste the time and the money to take it into a shop in the first place. It also stops you from thinking you can fix it. Like if it's a serious enough problem, you could just make things worse. So yeah, get a code reader. Doesn't matter what brand, just get one.
And don't flood your vehicles. So while we're under the hood, I do want to take a look at the spark plugs because none of us, we don't know when the last time these were changed, and the spark plugs are sitting right on top here, so it's going to be really easy for us to pull one, just check it out. You know, some symptoms that you can have are very, very poor fuel economy. You can have a misfire. Engine performance is just degraded a lot, significantly.
Think about it like this. You remember when we were talking about the airflow and again, go gas in it? Well, when we have that fuel mixture of oxygen and fuel, we still need a spark to some degree. So when we get the combination of fuel and oxygen, if you don't got no spark, then you're gonna have a limp piston. You know what I'm talking about? So then on this 6-banger, you're gonna have 5 out of the 6 that are going just like that. The problem is if one of them's kind of got a little bit of a limp system because he doesn't have, you know, that punch in him, he's just kind of riding along like this and he's got nothing to do and everyone else is running really fast and he can't go nowhere. So to just kind of put it bluntly, you have to make sure that you got that in order to...
Accurate. Yeah. Very accurate.
I can take over if you need.
So let's pull one. Let's see what's going on here. Just gonna pull the harness, pull the ignition coil, and yeah, this is one of those things that you don't have to do every 5,000 miles. I do mine every 100,000 miles. If it makes you feel better, you can certainly check them. You can just pull one at 60,000 miles, see what it looks like, determine whether or not, you know, you want to change them. But this is one of those maintenance items that you can do yourself that will actually save you a ton of money in the long run. All right, so what we got here, that looks terrible. And you can kind of see the difference, right? Like this one looks a lot better. Now, can I run these for a lot longer? Yeah, probably, but it's definitely one of those items that I would want to maintain. So last thing we're going to check with fluids is actually this particular Toyota has a dipstick for transmission fluid, which is very interesting. A lot of Toyotas have a sealed system, so you can't even check the fluid without essentially draining it. So this is nice. So upon further inspection, you can see the ribs there. I'm assuming this is low, this is high. Fluid is sitting right at the high level, which is fine. It smells sweet like transmission fluid should, and it's got a little red tint to it. So this honestly looks pretty good to me. There's no concern on like having to change this. Yeah, so I think we're good to go on this. You know, transmission stuff it's not something that you can just find a reservoir and add fluid to it. Like if it was low, most likely would have to take it to a shop and get the transmission serviced. But at least on this particular engine, we can at least check it, have a look, see what we need to do. But this looks fine.
Tires. The only part of the vehicle that should be making contact with the road. And brakes, because you got the tires off and it's very easy to inspect. So what we're gonna do is we're going to pull the tires off. We're gonna inspect the tires. We're gonna rotate the tires since they're off anyway. And since the tires are off, we have the opportunity to be able to see the brakes. So Chad, take it away.
This is where an impact is super handy. You can obviously do this with a tire iron. If you were to do that though, you need the weight of the vehicle on the ground so you can break the lug nut loose. With this, you can just break it loose in the air. All right, so with the tire off the vehicle, we're gonna essentially do this on all fours, but we're going to inspect the tread of the tire and determine whether it has issues or not, right? There's a bunch of different ways that a tire can wear, which will indicate, you know, whether you need to replace your suspension or it's overinflated, underinflated. Like, we're not gonna go down the rabbit hole of that. There's so many diagrams online that you can look up for tire wear, and it'll help you pinpoint, you know, the root cause of why that tire is wearing. For now though, we're gonna get all four tires off and kind of just briefly inspect, make sure they're wearing evenly. And like this tire right now, you can see if you get up closer, there are wear indicators for the tread that will tell you, well, you should probably start thinking about getting new tires soon. So these are at that indicator, so it's probably, you know, it's probably about time to start thinking about getting new tires for this thing. All right, so we got the last tire off the vehicle. Essentially how we're gonna rotate this, and this is for a majority of tires out there, but it could be specific to your make and model, what kind of tires you have, etc. But for this van, what we're gonna do is front to rears, rears to front, opposite of each other, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Fronts to rear, opposite? Rears to front, opposite? Rears to fronts.
Fronts to backs.
Cross.
Awesome.
All right, so since we have the tires off and they're placed in their respective locations, we're actually just gonna go ahead and inspect the brakes, because it's a lot easier to inspect the brakes with the tire off. So on this front one, we're gonna go ahead and, like, I can already see the pad. It's a little bit thin, but we're gonna take it off, give you an example. We've got a new one here that we can compare with. And then also, if you take a look at this rotor, let's see if you can hear it. It's like ribbed really badly. So that's a good indication of, yeah, this thing is worn down a lot. It needs to be replaced. Typically, the rule of thumb is anytime you're replacing brakes, you don't necessarily have to do all four sides at the same time, but you do want to do pairs. So either you do fronts, or you do rears, or you do all four of them. Also, with the brakes, I'm talking about pads and rotors. You don't necessarily want to just replace pads, slap pads on there and call it good. Can you do it? Can you get away with it? Yes, but it's always best to replace the rotor and pads at the same time. And since you're already in here, it just makes sense to do everything at once anyways. So essentially, if you don't know, you have your two pads and you have your rotor that sits in between them. You have a piston within the caliper that actually, when you press the pedal, it'll squeeze those pads together and stop the rotation of the rotor. This is a bit more involved of a project, but you can literally save yourself like $1,000 if you're to do this in your driveway. It may take a little bit longer, it's a little bit more involved. You can run into some issues here and there, but...
Look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
It's definitely worth learning how to do your brakes, and you're saving $1,000. All right, so as you can see, we've got the old one off, and we have a new one for comparison. You can see how thin the pad is on the old one. It's about time to replace these, but you can see like the fresh new one, how thick that is, and how much better that is. So we're not necessarily gonna put the new ones on. We're gonna just stick the old ones back on because, well, this vehicle is under a very thorough investigation right now, and apparently it's got some future plans. So we're just gonna slap the old ones back on, but that kind of gives you a general idea of what to look for on how to replace your brakes. If you want like a full tutorial on actually every nut and bolt how to do it, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube, so you can just look it up. You know, we check fluids. Last thing that I do like to check out while I'm under the hood is, you know, my serpentine belt or whatever belts I have going on down there. This belt is starting to crack, so it is definitely time to replace this with a fresh new belt. We're not gonna do that in this video, but that is just something to look for, you know, cracks in belts and things of that nature. All right, so we got all four wheels back on. Thank you, Josh. What we're gonna do now is essentially torque these lug nuts to spec. Basically what that means is we have a specialty tool, so this is a torque wrench, not just a regular socket wrench. This allows you to set certain specifications in foot-pounds according to what the vehicle recommends these torque specs to be for these lug nuts. So I've already got those specifications set, and I'm just going to go around and make sure that these are torqued. And this tool lets you know by the click that you just heard, that click, that you are at those certain specifications. And essentially what you do is you go in a star pattern when you tighten these lug nuts to keep a uniform tightening pattern, so everything is even across the plane of this like hub. So yeah, that's good to go on that one. Torque the rest of them and we'll close it out.
If you decide to do all this yourself, you're going to have an upfront cost of about $500 depending on whether or not you get everything that we showed. Now, that kind of hurts, but spread the cost out over multiple vehicles for multiple years, and it pays for itself very quickly because your cost to maintain your vehicle with all the consumables is about $350 per year. So in the first year, it'll cost you about $850 if you're doing it all yourself and starting from scratch. Now, if you take it to a mechanic, you're spending more like $800 to $1,200. A dealership, $1,200 to $1,800. So yeah, the first year might feel like a wash, but every year after that, you're cutting your maintenance cost in half, sometimes more. Over 5 years, that difference turns into thousands of dollars. Then there's the time. On average, people spend, on the low end, 7 hours a year sitting in a waiting room while their car gets worked on. That's just for 3 oil changes, a tire rotation, and a diagnostics check. Not to mention travel time. And if you do all of it yourself, it will not take you 7 hours a year. And the more you do it, the more efficient you're going to be. But honestly, the money and the time is the least important part of all of this. What you are really buying is independence. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. There's a kind of a special reason why we made this video. And to be honest, this is just kind of step one, level one of being able to properly maintain your mobility, your primary mode of transportation, your car. And it's worth remembering that there's, especially in the tactical world, a lot of focus invested daily and weekly researching watching YouTube videos, ingesting information to try and make the best purchase on body armor or night vision, and should I get a battery pack or not? And there is a ton of value in that. We are still very pro advocates for civilians owning that level of equipment. On the other hand though, you can't just ignore the importance of being able to go to your job, or in an emergency, go take care of your wife or your children, or just loved ones, or check on your neighbors. And having a vehicle to get you reliably from point A to point B is crucial, and it's actually, it should come before the night vision and the suppressor needs. And often it's just not flashy, and so it's forgotten or moved past. And it's much like someone who owns the nicest rifle with night vision and everything else, but they don't know how to swap the battery in their own night vision. And they need to take the firearm to the gun store that they bought it from just to get the carbon wiped off of the bolt carrier group. To be honest, I've been there too. That's how a lot of us treat our own vehicles. Now, you guys may also be watching this video and say, well, I don't own a 2006 Toyota Sienna with that level of mileage. How does any of this apply to me? Chad, can you explain specifically why we chose this van and your expertise on this kind of car?
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time I've ever worked on this vehicle. I've never worked on a Toyota Sienna before. I've never worked on this particular engine. But because of my experience throughout my life and just working on different various vehicles and understanding general where things are and understanding certain things here and there, like I was able to just pop the hood, be like, okay, well, there's this, there's that, here's how we're gonna do this. And so I think that should apply to a lot of people out there, having that knowledge and then applying it to, their own situation. Yeah, all too often we think about mobility and the importance of mobility, and we've done content around dirt bikes and e-bikes. That's a phenomenal secondary, or maybe it's a primary mode of transportation. But man, again, we're bypassing the tool that we use every single day to go acquire groceries to feed our family, to go pay bills, to keep the power and the water on, to go to our job, so on and so forth. And as soon as that mode of transportation becomes unreliable, or you are not able to get it to a mechanic. So let's say another pandemic hits the United States or the world, and there's a 6-month backup time because we can't all be in the mechanic shop at the same time, right? Now all of a sudden you may be driving your car over the mileage that it should be at for your tires, for your oil, for your coolant, for your air filters. And man, if you can just have that backstock in your garage, you don't need to wait with everyone else just to get your tires rotated and fresh oil put in your truck. That's a 15 to 25 minute job. So this is also becoming self-sufficient. Thinking back to the 1800s, you may have someone who's a veterinarian. But as a farmer, if you're trying to plow your own field or ride that horse, you still need to know how to get that horse food, water, and some very basic medicine. Now, horses and cars are not the exact same, but the principles still apply, and we have to remember to think about it that way. All right, guys, so to wrap this up, we're just gonna touch on a little bit of dad advice, and especially as it applies to vehicles and being wise with how you move forward in life. So right now, the leading cause of debt for the average American home here in America is vehicles, is mobility. Well, unfortunately, that's caused by a desire to keep up with the Joneses and to have the nicest car in the parking lot or the nicest car in the neighborhood. And the scary part is that a lot of people are taking on loans 10 to 12 years out. They're borrowing money on a car that may not even last the length of the loan that they borrowed on. Now, what happens when you are borrowing something and you're spending money when you can't even pay it off by the time that that asset or that liability depreciates to zero? It honestly turns you into a slave. And I don't say that lightly because I know that's kind of harsh terms, but biblically that's exactly how it's put.
You see, Proverbs 22:7 in the Bible says the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, Dave Ramsey, you're one of those crazy Christian people, aren't you? Yep. Unabashedly so, darling. But it's not really crazy. It's just kind of common sense.
So if you're going to do anything with your vehicle and you're going to look at why you can't afford night vision, why you can't afford an extra water purification system for your home or for camping, or whatever, you may want to take a look at your personal desire to keep up with the Joneses in regards to vehicles, and then assess, you know what, I don't need that newest car. I can buy with cash this version car for $10,000 to $12,000, and as long as I have the capability of maintaining it and keeping it up, it's gonna last me just fine, and more money is gonna go back into my pocket, whether I wanna save it, invest it, or put it into different kind of tools and equipment. Do not get buried in debt. It's one of the fastest way to fall into or commit yourself to slavery.
Beach.
I should have looked at your face.
No way it was a No way it was a
You all right, Chad?
I'm doing great.
I'm 6 feet from the ocean, I'm thinking on